Is Pluto a planet, a dwarf planet, or, as some recent research shows, just a giant comet? Now, if I was doing an informative speech about Pluto, that might be one way I could start it. Ask a question, and then answer those questions later in the speech. So let's talk a little bit more about the informative speech. So the basic elements are an introduction, and again, we talked about that before. We'll talk about it again in this little lesson. The central idea, so what do you want people to know? So if I was talking about Pluto, I want to sort of let them know where Pluto stands right now. So my informative point of view, or my main central idea for the speech is, what is Pluto now? And does it really matter what we call it? Usually a body paragraph where you make 3 main points. This is a 5-minute speech, so you don't want to spend a lot of time because you don't have a lot of time to go into great detail. So you may want to tackle just a couple points in this speech to get your point across. All right, so the introduction, we talked about this before, gains the listener's attention. You can use a humorous story, you can use an illustration, you can ask a question, you can make a bold statement, you can use a quotation, anecdotes, all sorts of things about introductions are important. Get the listeners to pay attention so they care about your topic. What kind of orienting material do you want to need or want to include in your speech? All right, what kind of background material? So in my speech about Pluto, I might talk about Pluto being discovered in 1930. And then the New Horizons probe went by in 2015 and discovered some wonderful, interesting things about Pluto. It was turned into a dwarf planet in 2006 by the International Astronomical Union, who sort of downgraded Pluto from planetary status. Right. I might give definitions. What's the difference between a planet, a dwarf planet, and a comet? My personal history or connection to the topic. Why am I talking about Pluto? I've always been fascinated by the stars, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that. Always looked up to the stars and wondered what was going on there. And why would it be important to listeners? That one might be a little tougher for Pluto, kind of an interesting topic for me, and maybe you might not be interested in it, but I have to find a way to make a connection to you guys. All right. So the central idea keeps the speaker on course. So my idea is sort of just inform me about what the status of Pluto is right now. So I'm going to look at my speech and sort of figure out what do I need to tell you and keep on that topic. What kind of response do I want from you? I'm just going to inform you. I don't want you to sort of go out and sort of write to the International Astronomical Union and say, make Pluto a planet again. I'm just here to inform you. Right? And I'm going to sort of give you an idea of what the speech is going to cover. So again, maybe I'll mention those 3 points early on in that first minute of the speech so the audience knows what's to come. The body is going to be the major points of the speech. So again, those 3 points we talked about earlier, you're going to go into a little more detail on here. Again, with a 5-minute speech, you may want to spend a minute, maybe a little minute more on each point. That's 3 minutes. Another 45 seconds for introduction, 45 seconds for conclusion, you're almost right at 5 minutes. Right? I want some outside sources in here. So I mentioned the International Astronomical Union. Icarus is the research vessel that the recent scientists have sort of talked about Pluto just being a giant comet. So I'm going to use some kind of informal citations for my research in the speech. How am I going to arrange it? So for Pluto, I might do more of a sort of a timeline, a time arrangement, a chronology. So going back from when Pluto was discovered in 1930 to what's going on today. And that news about it maybe being a giant comet just came out in the last couple of weeks. You may want to look at something spatially, taking us through something from left to right or through the Grand Canyon. You may want to arrange it by topic, similarities of things. There might be something that causes another thing. So maybe you're looking at the cause of the current conflict in Syria. Maybe you want to compare and contrast 2 items. Maybe you want to inform us about buying a new camera. And you want to compare an Android device to an iPhone. Maybe you want a problem solution, what's going on. Sports gambling has just been legalized by the Supreme Court, and what's going on with that? So there's a problem. Yeah, there's a lot of illegal gambling. Is this the solution to it? So you may want to think about how you're going to arrange your speech and put things together. The conclusion is really important. It's the last thing people hear, and you want to save something for the end. So in my speech about Pluto, I may say, it really doesn't matter what Pluto is because it's a fascinating celestial body, and whether we call it a planet, a comet, or a dwarf planet doesn't matter because we need to study it, and all the things that are out in the Kuiper belt at the far end of our solar system need further sort of research on what's going on. Right? Don't just summarize what you just told me. Give me something good at the end to sort of clinch that. That's an effective way to close a speech, and it'll make me happy when I'm listening to your speeches. Good luck. Have fun.